Hey guys, welcome to Buzzkill Films. Do you like movies? Well, we're probably going to rip them apart.
Hey guys, it's Claire.
Andy.
Danny.
Jacqueline.
Dan.
E-money.
Your name is Elliot.
And today we are going to talk about Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, written, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Also starring James McAvoy, Betty Buckley, and Anya Taylor-Joy. All right, so starting off, real quick and simple. I want your initial feelings or thoughts in one word. We're going to go round robin style. Andy first.
Powerful.
Oh, fuck. That's not my word. I just don't know.
That doesn't count, Danny.
I know. I need to think about mine. Skip for right now.
Ambivalent.
Confusing.
Oh, I loved it.
That's not one word.
One word, Elliot.
Love.
Love. Love is a word.
Love is a many splendored thing. Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love.
Thank you, Elephant Love Madly, Andy.
I've got mine now.
Danny.
Underdeveloped.
Ah.
There you go.
All right. See, we can keep it short and sweet, guys. All right, so here we go. This was well sought after as the return of M. Night Shyamalan. Now, after viewing this movie, how do we feel? Do we feel like that this is his comeback, or were we left wanting more?
I do think that in a way it was a comeback because the last movie that I liked of his was Signs, and that was 2005, 2006, and I did not like any of the movies in between.
To be fair, Andy, what movies did you see in between?
Only The Village.
Wait, what were the other most recent movies?
Wait, yeah, I was actually gonna say, this is like he's back and everything. Where did he go? He did Split, and then 2015 was The Visit, and then After Earth in 2013, Devil in 2010, Last Airbender in 2010, The Happening in 2008, Lady of the Water. He's been doing a movie pretty consistently since early 2000s.
Yes, but I guess I will rephrase it. Many people have been ridiculing him for those movies basically ever since, I would argue, Signs or perhaps The Village. Is this the return to the real M. Night Shyamalan that we know and love, the M. Night Shyamalan that people were looking forward to?
I think that it's a solid movie. I think in terms of his movies, a lot of times when people are disappointed, it's because of that twist ending. It doesn't go how they think it should go, or it becomes a little bit more irrational than they want. So in that sense, I think they played this safer, and I think that's why people are more okay with it.
Well, I was just going to say, because I was hearing a little bit of the same thing, like it's his return to form, but I think, like you were saying, you're referencing that like twist ending, and I didn't feel that in this movie.
I think that's the thing with his movies. Everybody goes in with like this preconceived notion of like it's not going to be anything that you expect because there's going to be this crazy twist. However, going back to a point that you had within a point, not like back to form, but what people wanted. A lot of people wanted a sequel to Unbreakable because it was one of his most sought underappreciated films of the time. I don't know if it's back to his true form of like crazy twist endings because I don't think it was that crazy. However, people did want a sequel to Unbreakable because it's that comic book kind of world, and he kind of gave the people what he wanted.
I obviously, after seeing Unbreakable, I do see how it is a sequel to it. But if you have never seen Unbreakable, you wouldn't really know. It could have been Bruce Willis's character in Armageddon. He never, coming back. He never died on the asteroid, and he's just in the coffee shop.
Never died on the asteroid.
And it's just, you never know. It could be. But I kind of like that there was no major twist at the end of the movie. I kind of like that. Well, I don't know if I'm saying this too early in the podcast, but that the character, the most talked about character, the Beast, was actually the character and wasn't some random person or some random figment of someone's imagination.
But it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. It was
It
was the zoo animals
What a
embodying
twist.
him.
It was him, but it wasn't him.
So my main question was, how do we feel about this plot twist in terms of an M. Night Shyamalan? And do we think that it is a misstep having a plot twist catering to an earlier movie? Do we think that audiences will miss out? Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, I saw Unbreakable a while ago, but I don't remember any of it, and I didn't see the end of it and any of that. So when I watched the movie, I was completely confused. And then I'm watching Unbreakable, which I did today, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But if you're going to make a sequel directly like in the same universe as the movie that you're doing, you shouldn't just like throw it in literally as the last line of the movie as an after credits sequence, by the way. I'm like, that's stupid.
Well, I did stay awake through the whole film. Was
Special
was
award.
that the only plot twist? I mean, or was there something that I missed? Because I didn't.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, I guess if you're gonna say plot twist, that was it. But to go back to Dan's point, I was listening to this podcast, Happy Sad Confused, and it had M. Night on
Sweet.
on the episode, and he was talking about it. And he was saying that he hates sequels, and he thinks that sequels don't do any good to any kind of franchises at all. So he wanted to make another origin film so it could stand alone by itself.
Of a supervillain?
Of a supervillain, that he could connect them in a third.
Has
But
he-
that's what he wants to try to do with the third as well, is make it another kind of separate movie in itself.
Has he seen Empire Strikes Back?
Your mom's seen Empire Strikes Back.
Danny?
Okay, a couple of things. Yeah, I think that in that sense, that makes more sense now that you've said that, because I was going to say the tone doesn't really match Unbreakable, at least in my opinion. Elliot has something to say on that. I don't think that the tones match, and I think that the concept is very similar, but I think it is a bit of a stretch. But going back to the twist, I think the problem, and it's not his fault, M. Night has this legacy of doing these movies with these crazy twists, and so people expect that. But if you didn't go into that movie expecting a twist, I think I would have had a different reaction.
I did see this movie twice, because after seeing it
Yeah.
first time and then seeing the end, I was just
Brown-noser.
like, I need to go back and see if I can find any Easter eggs that reference back to Unbreakable.
They do.
Only one, really. Besides that it's in Philadelphia, but all of his films are usually in Philadelphia. But the music is the same. It's not the same composer, but they take the original score from Unbreakable and use it in this one. However, the cinematographer and everybody else is different from the first one. Because if you see Unbreakable, it actually looks like under budgeted. It doesn't look like, crazy blockbuster film.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, the cinematographer was the same cinematographer of It Follows. And actually,
I love that movie.
Interestingly enough, It Follows, he was greatly influenced by M. Night Shyamalan. So it's just a wonderful little circle jerk
That's awesome.
there.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that. Oddly enough, same cinematographer.
All I was going to say is I was going to go back to what Elliot said about what M. Night said. Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, is so much better than Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Do not go in there.
Andy perpetually just likes to
References,
reference
like-
the sequels, and he will have the best pop culture, obscure references you'll ever hear.
Always.
Dude, I know we said we weren't going to talk about Unbreakable, but this was the first time I've ever seen it, and I fucking loved that movie.
I
Well,
did
that's
too.
the thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing though. Like Unbreakable was such a it was a solid film. And it was interesting, and it moved. It was interestingly shot, and there was interesting things with lighting and with all the color, especially when he's sitting in the train station trying to find people and the way that
Yes.
they use lighting and color. And this, I didn't see a whole lot of that. And you would think if it was set in the same universe, he would at least try to, as Danny said, keep the same kind of tone. And it didn't feel like it had that kind of tone at all. It was just sort of a completely separate entity.
I do like it, though, in the fact that it doesn't, in a oversaturated market of spandex-wearing superheroes right now, it's a very real kind of superhero. Going back to what they said in Unbreakable, what Mr. Glass says about comic books is that where did these comic books kind of get their origins from? It's kind of like a heightened reality of things, and this would be like if we actually saw if somebody could tap into their other sense of their mind, what an actual superhero might look like.
I think Man of Steel was a masterpiece, and I think you're full of shit. And I'm just kidding.
This is going back to cinematography, and this is such a minute detail, but this is the first thing I noticed, because the minute the movie started, I tried to figure out what the twist was. So in the very first shot, when you're introduced to the girl who's at the end of this party, and she's talking to Claire's dad, you don't see her full face. Her face is split in the frame, so you only see half of it. So for the entire movie, I convinced myself, based on that cinematographer's choice, like these were all extensions of her personality.
And then when it got into her flashbacks with her and her uncle and everything, I started being like, I forgot about, I thought the same thing. And then I was like, okay, no, it's definitely this guy. And then when she started having the flashbacks about her uncle and then the weird shit happened, I was like, well, wait, is it her? And then at the end, I was kind of upset that it wasn't her.
See, that's why I feel like you have to kind of go into these movies not trying to expect what the ending is and just kind of experience it as it's really supposed to be experienced, not be like, oh, all of a sudden this crazy thing's going to happen that nobody, like trees are going to kill us.
The happening. Oh God. Yeah, no, I think that's totally legitimate because I was waiting for this huge twist, and honestly, I think it was a solid movie for the most part. If I wasn't expecting that.
To piggyback off of that, I think that was the problem with M. Night Shyamalan for so long, that people kept going to his movies thinking there's going to be this crazy twist, there's going to be this crazy twist, and then nothing happened, and they were like, oh, the movie sucks.
Couldn't live up to expectation.
He was too good the first time out of the gate.
Thank you for letting me get that in, Jackie. But continue.
Jackie,
That's
yeah,
what she said.
Jackie, what was your question?
Oh, so I was wondering what everybody thought about the payoff in the end when, again, spoiler alert, everybody, but when she's finally confronted with this beast persona at the end and then he lets her go, like, how did we feel about like the reasoning behind that, and was that a strong? I'm just thinking, and I honestly, okay, I have not seen Batman versus Superman yet, but like all I keep hearing is how stupid it is that they finally teamed up based solely on the fact that their mother's name was the same thing, and it's like that's the thing that eventually drives this major decision.
The ties that bind, Jackie. The ties that bind.
That's a different spoiler.
Right. So spoiler alert for everything now. But how do we feel about like justifying this change of events in the end of the movie where this beast kind of lets her go?
Before Dan
Yeah,
explodes.
so that was the same kind of thing that hit me, was that I was watching it and he's like bending the bars. Like the whole thing is built up to like he's gonna release the beast and she's gonna have to fight him and all this stuff. That's the entire thing, is they build up to this moment of like it's the beast. Oh my god! And then he lets her go because she has scars on her, and I'm like, what? That's
Okay, I have so many thoughts on this. I'm going to limit it to one right now. I thought it was very interesting. I've been kind of stuck with this. Pardon me, I'm going to go on a tangent. Okay. The parallels between Kevin's character and her uncle became more and more apparent to me as I spent time. So her relationship with her uncle, that sexual abuse, begins because he's pretending to be an animal and said, animals don't wear clothes. You got to be naked and have fun, pretty much. And so that's always how it starts.
It's absolutely disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting. But let's think about where
Had a very
she
modern
is
haircut, too.
throughout this entire movie.
Stop.
Throughout this entire movie, she is trapped in a place where animals are caged. She progressively loses clothing as it goes on. So it's basically like she even holds a gun to this guy too. The difference is she shoots and he lets her go. So I almost feel like in some weird fucked up way, it's like an alternative universe to what she did experience that helps her deal with the trauma now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really think what this experience that she did go through, kind of just piggybacking off of what you said, this experience that she does go through with the beast gives her enough strength to really go against her uncle that she's been battling with her whole life. She's been running away from home, running away from the problem, and I think finally confronting the beast helps her to really push past that.
I was just going to say, in relation to that, you definitely feel that moment when the cop is saying that her uncle is there, and that look that they exchange just says everything.
Well, and the look of the cop, too. You can see that the cop knows something's up.
She can tell.
Right.
Yeah, all that's fine and everything, but him just letting her go just for that reason, that was such a buzzkill for me. It was just such a like it was just such a like wait, really? Like really?
I mean, I asked the question because I'm not sure how well I feel they handle it, or at least how strong it played out in the movie, but I do appreciate her journey just like taking into account everything right up until that very last moment in the car, because it is obviously such a transformative thing for her. And you get the impression that she's actually going to change something in her own life because of this and get out of a situation that she was stuck in for her entire life.
I think to try to justify the point that Dan was saying was that she wasn't a part of this whole sacred food thing in general. The character of Dennis followed the two girls around for 4 days. She wasn't a part of it. She was never a part of the original plan. So the whole thing was that they were going to rid the unpure. And the unpure were the people who have never experienced any kind of real hurt.
Two things real quick. Okay. So what I thought was unfair about that, though, is that the only thing that's given in that scenario is that he watched them for 4 days. I wish there was more backstory from the girls or more dialogue that told of their like pain-free existence up until now, because I just felt like that was underdeveloped. But real quick, piggybacking off of what you said, I really wanted that to be also part of the twist. Again, I had expectations that he's torturing these girls to make them pure, to have them have pain in their lives, and so he would torture them in order to save them from the beast. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do wish that they had shown more of him following the girls, but you could tell just from the way that the wardrobe, they dressed the girls differently.
Yeah.
Like the two girls, I forget their names.
Marcia and Claire.
Marcia and Claire obviously looked like privileged, popular girls, and Kendall Jenner.
It really was weird.
It
Yeah.
really was.
Kendall Jenner looked like a depressed goth girl, and good on her for getting invited to that party. She must have said something nice one day.
Yeah.
Because why would you invite the one? I don't know.
Well,
The
to
one
be fair,
weirdo.
She
they
said
Yeah.
it would be weird if she didn't invite one girl. You know,
Exactly.
Claire was trying to be a nice person, so but good for her,
But
because
that
a lot
was-
of times they only portray really bitchy high school students.
That was one of those moments where I was like, oh, yeah, they just put that in there just so they could justify why she's at the party.
I don't think you need to throw it in. I like how it jumps right into it. It's literally like 2 or 3 minutes into it, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden he's throwing them in the car.
Yeah.
I don't think
I like
you
that.
need to follow them because it's inferred later on, especially when Kendall Jenner is saying
great in this movie.
it's always so easy for you guys.
Yeah.
Like you took 6 months of karate at the mall. Like it's always so you guys don't know what this is. I like that it's not really shown to you, it's inferred, and you get it without being blatantly in your face.
I've been to that mall too, the King of Prussia Mall. Not kidding.
Good mall.
It's huge. No, it's like a huge
In
mall.
Philly?
Yeah, in Philadelphia. Yeah.
I'm just saying making judgments about their characters solely based on their clothing just seemed like an easy choice for me. Like to have Casey in like a hoodie that's like zipped up all the way. Like I know she needs to be fully clothed in order to cover those scars.
She has like 6 layers.
Yeah, who the fuck wears 6 layers?
A
Somebody
person
who
who
had-
gets raped.
A person who has a bunch of rape scars.
But here's the thing, though. Let's not forget that up until she lost her last shirt, he was gonna fucking eat her, okay? So he has bad intuition. That would have been fucking up on his part.
Well, he almost didn't even drug her in the beginning too, because she wasn't
So interesting.
because she wasn't originally part of the plan.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, she also knew what she whispers to the girl. Like one of the first things she says to the girl is "pee on yourself." Like she knows how to defend herself in these type of situations. So you can tell that she's lived a vastly different life than these other two girls.
Yeah.
I just wanted I just want to go to something you mentioned really quick about flashbacks, because M. Night uses them constantly in all of his movies. Does anybody have a problem with his pacing? Because I kind of like when I'm watching Unbreakable and I was watching Split and I'm watching Signs and stuff like that, I kind of like find myself getting a little antsy and like not bored but sort of impatient, and I'm kind of like, does that have to? It feels like his pacing's a little off because of the flashbacks and because of the detail in the flashbacks that were not necessarily given in the present moment.
Well, I've noticed that through recently rewatching Unbreakable, watching this movie, and having a good visual memory of Signs and Sixth Sense. He likes to do flashbacks, but he does them in segments. So he starts out with a
Yeah.
little piece, and then goes to another little piece, and then at the end, you finally see the whole thing, like what actually it is, and it does. It makes me antsy because I'm like, wait, no, what's going on? And then he goes back.
Well,
Like,
that's the whole reason of suspense.
You're a genius.
No, I was just gonna say I think that's an interesting comment because whether I like or dislike a movie of his in the end, I feel like I'm never bored. I feel like I'm always.
I never find it to be a bad movie. Well, I'll take that back.
Oh, I thought
What?
you loved Last Airbender.
Airbender sucked.
So that's next week's movie, right?
Something that I did notice with pacing, although I did really enjoy it, is that there were lots of long takes that were done, and they were done on a person who was listening. A lot of times we were focusing on somebody who was listening and reacting to what was being said, but you didn't get that back and forth between that person and the other person, if that makes sense.
Totally
there were
makes sense.
lots of that going on, and I think that if you're not like getting fully absorbed in what's being said, I can understand being taken out pace-wise.
Jackie?
There were long takes and very close-up takes. Did anyone else take note of that? Like
Yes.
lots of really just in your face for a very
It's like
Awesome.
Betty
which
Buckley in your
which
face.
I mean it's one of those things that like it wasn't like quite at Les Mis levels, but like almost though, like, and it's something that I think is such an interesting choice to be just on someone's face for a really long period of time.
Yeah, well, those scenes with the doctor and McAvoy, where she's trying to reach him and tell him, no, I think you're somebody else, and he's trying to cover it up and say, no, I'm this person. That was actually riveting. That's why I was like, wow, okay, that's great.
All right, I'm going to take it to a whole nother question because he keeps being brought up, and I think we need to give him his due diligence. James McAvoy! All right, I would love short and succinct. James McAvoy, what did we think?
Incredible. Yay.
Mixed.
Ooh, mixed.
I've got my reasons.
Gosh, all right. Well, let's go around and then we can
Are you
going
to
to
say he was
on
better
that.
in the Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, or what's going on?
Not debate time. We're giving our first thoughts right now.
First
I
thoughts.
thought he was great.
Yeah, he's good.
Dan is just displeased
Everything is
forever.
Jeez, I thought the little nuances of every different character were great, especially with like Barry and the little like wink and like thing. I loved like every little detail that he had of every character that he had.
This is Elliot being succinct, by the way.
All right, Danny, I'd love
being
to come
profound.
I'd love to come back for you. Why mixed?
I don't think it's so much a problem with his performance. It was certain characters that didn't read as genuine to me. As much as I loved Hedwig, that's not a 9-year-old boy. I'm sorry. Like with the speech impediment and
You would know.
I do know my young boys. That's so creepy.
I wasn't no, I mean you babysit kids.
Yeah.
That's what
Danny the nanny.
I am
wow,
not
you
the uncle
you
in
just
this.
Freudian slipped something.
Oh, Danny.
Nobody hire me. No, so there were certain characters and certain moments that existed within the characters that seemed more theatrical to me. However, the moments like you were talking about when Dennis comes forward from being Barry, I thought was captivating. I thought that I
so
loved
good.
Barry. He was one of my favorites. But there were certain moments or certain characters that seemed put on. And honestly, when he was transitioning, I found that the most compelling. But when he sat in certain characters for too long, it just seemed mostly Hedwig. And again, I loved him, but it didn't feel as real to me.
I see what you're saying, but also I feel like I have met 9-year-old kids that are like that, and also all of these characters or all these personalities are still like they are personalities that still exist in that world. Like it's a 9-year-old boy, but he's not like he's a 9-year-old boy in the world of
Kevin's
I'm
body.
confined. I'm confined in this space and I don't have real interactions with the rest of the world. You know, like all of those personalities live in this very different environment. So I see what you're saying, but also at the same time I'm kind of like it was real for me because I'm like that could totally be a kid who is kept away from the rest of humanity and
is
only
true.
deals with these other personalities.
Listen, love him or hate him, his Kanye West dance was the best.
It wasn't even
Fact.
Kanye West. That was a EDM like song.
But
It was
that
like an old
dancing.
Prodigy music video.
Oh god, it was
I thought that the character of Hedwig was smart to have in there because it was a character that gave the girls a way to go against what Dennis and Mrs. Patricia were doing and actually find a way out. He was, yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, Danny, how many 9-year-old kids do you know who sit in a chair and who are like, abandoned and yelled at by like all these other characters, and they had to please answer
You'd
that
be
question.
surprised.
So many.
The
No, because
underbelly of Hollywood.
they do give the insight, and I love how they give the insight of what all the characters kind of do, how they're just in a room and sit in a chair, and how like nobody really likes this kid, so he's kind of looking to be impressive to these girls, but he doesn't know how to, and he's like they're gonna come find you. I have blue socks.
You can't kiss them.
And like the kissing and everything. But I think it's the moment where Casey talks about like we're your babysitters and we just want to make you like a nice kind of meal and everything, and then he has that kind of moment. I find that was a beautiful little touch.
I mean, I do think, to your point, Jack, I didn't take into account the climate that he's dealing with. I kind of just took them as individual characters, and so I do agree that might socially stun him a bit, but I still think I think I saw him mature as it went on as Hedwig.
Oh, definitely.
But I just kind of wanted to see that seed in the beginning, because him starting with like, he's gonna get you, I was like, that's a 5-year-old to me, which is fine. Like, I still think that character does serve its importance. And again, I do like James McAvoy.
He was 4 years off.
4 years. But that's a big difference. Look, guys,
It's a big difference.
I know my young boys.
All right, you guys. And
God.
with that, we're going to take a commercial break.
I gotta stop. I need a break.
What? Come on, you're not even halfway yet.
I'm exhausted. I've had a long day.
Oh, come on. I've been up since 5 a.m. and I'm still going strong.
Well, I don't know how you do it.
My secret
Is beast mode! Beast mode pumps you full of energy and gets your body moving like never before!
Danny, what's happening?
Beast mode gets you through the tough times of being a wuss and turns you into a
Oh
champion!
my god, Danny, you know the steroids in this thing?
Do you wanna win?
Win what? What am I winning?
Do you wanna win?
Yes, I want to win. I want to win.
Yes, then strap yourself in for the greatest pump of your life!
Oh, Danny, I'm scared.
Ah!
Beast Mode, recommended for nobody else except for James McAvoy.
All right, and welcome back. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with James McAvoy. Now, within his portrayals, I'd love for us to talk about that 24th entity, the Beast. How did we feel about this character, and were we excited, sad, scared, all of the above? Tell me your thoughts.
I was very curious about what the Beast was going to be because they actually talked about it in the trailer. So from that point, I was like, okay, is the Beast going to be something in this girl's imagination? Is it going to be something that is part of his imagination? Or is it going to be what the character, who we'll talk about later, Dr. Fletcher, brings up, is that the Beast is not real and that something else is going to happen to the character. So I think that the Beast, while I was not very happy that he was actually a superhuman character, knowing what happens in the end, it makes sense to me.
I hated it.
Now, please,
Tell us more.
please explain why.
Back to you, Elliot.
No, you're not. I'm not letting you off.
No, dude, I did too. I hated the fact that it was a superhuman.
No,
like,
you had
beast.
enough. I want you to explain why.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I didn't hate it. That's not the best way to put it.
You did say that.
I did say that. No, I didn't. I just
3 times now.
I didn't. I was underwhelmed by it, I guess would probably be the best way to put it. Just because there's this whole thing building up to it throughout the entire film about the 24th personality and how dangerous it is and how crazy it is and all these things. And then they even describe the look of it. And it looks nothing like that. And I get it. Like, I get you can't really do that in this kind of movie, but I don't know. I was kind of looking for something a little bit different. And then, they're just little things with it. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, he can crawl on the walls, and that's really crazy. And then they show him crawling on the walls, but there's no reason for him to be doing that. Like,
Absolutely not.
He's in the room, and he's crawling on the wall, but I'm like, why? She's right there. He's going after her. Why is he crawling on the wall? She's standing there. You know what I mean?
Okay, I do agree with you on the crawling on the wall. I did think they kind of threw that in there because maybe they forgot to throw it, although he climbs on the ceiling at the end. But anyway.
Which I also thought was weird looking. Like, I don't know. Like, I got, like, he's down to knock out the light bulbs. It just looked funny.
That was a cool moment.
I thought that was cool and scary. Anyway, I liked the character because it does stay in that, going back to kind of Unbreakable, that kind of reality of superheroes, where they do kind of explain. The only thing that wasn't like the character that they said was that he had a huge mane of hair, which he didn't as the actual character, but he was taller, bigger, did have skin that was impenetrable. And it was, still the same character, but like his personality. It was the same like body.
The thing that we have to keep in mind, though, is that all these other characters that he's playing, like Patricia, for example, is a woman. I think we're perceiving Patricia as a woman, and there's nothing feminine about him except for how he carries himself. So in his mind, he's created the reality that he is this person. He can crawl on walls, but like everything else is just what he's created the truth in his brain.
Do you know there's nothing womanly about him?
My specialty is young boys.
That is actually interesting to bring up, in that there is, for this one personality out of all of the 23 or 24, there is a physical change. Whether it's as extreme as what he describes or not, there is a physical change, and because they make a point for you to see it happen, even though with these other characters, he essentially looks exactly the same. So it is interesting that finally in this final beast transformation, he does make a physical transformation. And what does that mean?
Well, he's wearing a skirt when you first see Miss Patricia, and I think that it's smart that he doesn't wear any other form of feminine, like a wig or makeup, because it's the first time that the girls get to see that this guy is being somebody else. This is not just Dennis. This is Miss Patricia. This could be something else.
Right, but I mean, there's a difference between adding different clothing or different accessories as opposed to his physical body changing, because they make a point to show that when he becomes the beast, he does physically grow, and it's not super extreme, but
he gets veiny.
Where super veiny,
Yeah.
but with Miss Patricia, obviously as a woman, he's putting on women's clothing, but his body doesn't change at all until he becomes the beast.
I'm just holding my thought. I have a thought on personalities, but if we want to piggyback on Patricia, then pass to someone else.
It's not so much Patricia. When she first meets Dennis, the therapist, he talks about the beast and how he is the sentient being. He is the evolution of man, and then nobody else deserves to be in this world with him besides people like him. So they do. So I do like that they do give him the final physical evolution form, rather than the other 23 characters just get a gesture change.
I had a problem with the fact that there are 24 personalities that are mentioned and only a handful were developed. And in my brain, this is a real question. Is there any significance to that number being 24?
I don't think there's a significance to the number being 24, but I think that there's a significance to the characters that they show, because those are the characters that are taking the majority of the light.
Right,
that they talk about.
But I guess what I'm wondering, I feel this about a couple of, I feel this about the girls too, you could just condense that character into one. Why wouldn't you just spend more time with those other characters? You're ignoring about 13 other personalities at this point.
I don't think you need to touch on them. It's the same thing of it's implied that he has all these other ones that you don't need to see all of them, and you kind of see when Casey goes through the diary database of all of them, you get the idea that DID with these DID patients, they do have all these multiple personalities, however crazy and extreme that it could be. That you don't need to see each one. I don't feel you just see the ones that are the most extreme and the ones that, like Andy said, take the light prominently.
Really quick, this is based on a real person.
Who?
There's a real person who has 24 personalities.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who?
I don't know their name.
Dan. It's
Surprise, guy.
Let me just throw that little nugget in there and then just disappear.
It's Dana Carvey in The Master of Disguise.
Okay, because that's what I'm asking. 24 just seems like an insane amount of personalities to alter egos to have, and I guess I wanted that to be more fully realized, because otherwise it just seems like an arbitrary number.
I might also point out, though, it might have just been for time and also for just condensing within the story. You do have to edit within scripts and whatnot, so maybe showing every single one of those characters might have muddied the waters, something
Just
like
at one
that.
point would be
And I'm
nice,
sure that's,
though.
I mean, I'm sure that's exactly what it was, because I had that thought. It just is weird because just in all the promo material that you see for this, they make such a point that like that's an essential part of his character, but at the same time, like, how would you do that effectively and give enough weight to the important elements of the story? So
I guess the only importance would be is that they talk about when they talk about the Horde. The Horde is Hedwig, Miss Patricia, and Dennis, and then they talk about the group. So it's the group versus the Horde. So I guess it's that kind of importance that these three very powerful characters can overthrow like 20 others.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, at least they made a point to actually give some of the other characters a moment to shine through that video diary segment at the end. They did like kind of wrap it up like, okay, he's not just these 4 characters. He is actually this and this and this.
And through
and
like
this.
the breakdown of, at the end.
Great. So we're going to wrap up on that question. So now we're going to move to Mrs. Fletcher. Now, one of my main questions about
Doctor.
this...
She's a
Oh, sorry.
doctor.
Yes, doctor. I apologize.
her due.
That's right. That PhD.
You go to school for many, many years to get that. Those
is
2 letters.
That is correct. My dad has a PhD.
3.
Great job, Dad.
PhD.
Oh,
MD?
I thought you meant doctor.
Da-
DR is
DR.
not on the certificate.
All right. Okay, moving on. Dr. Fletcher, do we think that she was being negligent by not contacting higher authorities earlier in this film?
I don't think she was being negligent because she didn't know until she actually went there and saw that something was going on. She was curious, and she knows that he's capable of doing these things. But I think that once her actually going there was her being like, okay, something's wrong. I'm going to go check this out. And then by the time it was too late.
But I do think there is an element, and I think you see this with her at the very end too, where she realizes kind of her mistake in being too lenient with him, and because she's so passionate about her work, and she's passionate about, like, she obviously very clearly believes in what she's doing, and she believes in helping people and helping these different personalities, but it's that line, right? Like, where do you draw the line between, like, this is what I personally believe versus what is good for everybody else? Because I think her personal beliefs and her her convictions definitely let her get too far into this. Obviously, things did not work out so well for her. And it's like I feel like you kind of see that flash in her at the end, where it's like, I had a moment to make a different choice and I didn't, and now things are too late.
Yeah, because she is the one doctor, and she says herself that her patients are like her family, because she did kind of take the other route of how to act with these patients. She didn't take the traditional route, and she does care for these people in general. So if she did like end up calling the authorities, they would probably just put him in handcuffs and whatnot without any concrete evidence. The only thing that brought her to that house was like the massive amount of emails that she got in the middle of the night. There wasn't anything else like concrete that would have led her to believe that there was something dangerous going on until she got into that zoo.
But I would also question, if you're heading to a zoo where someone's living underneath the basement and you have a PhD, wouldn't you at least tell somebody where you're headed?
She deals with these people all the time. I mean, she doesn't probably think that it's unnatural. Sorry,
He's lived there for 10 years.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I will say that it's definitely violating some codes as a therapist to go,
Yeah.
or psychiatrist.
She
to go.
deals with him very gently.
That's where I was kind of thinking about is okay, if she's concerned enough about him that she's going to where he lives, right? That's what happened. Mm-hmm. If you believe as a therapist that someone's either going to harm someone else or themselves, you need to notify the authorities. And she doesn't do that. She just kind of goes there. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I think her story is actually really interesting too, because it's kind of glossed over and just in that brief mention of her saying these people are my family, but in that one mention you can see how it affects how she deals with him, because obviously she has now breached the strictly therapist-client interaction, because something else would have been done prior to this.
I think that she's somebody who sees the potential in Kevin, and I think she's gotten to the point where she's convinced herself that he's starting to get it. a little bit under control until the emails pour in, and I think that's evident in that Barry moment when Dennis comes forward and she gets super emotional about that because she's starting to see that he can switch and that maybe that's a moment of control, whereas we all know it's not.
To go back to what Jackie was saying, I do think she does she's very hesitant to talk to anybody else about these patients of hers, because you do see the discrimination against these patients with her next door neighbor who's like, I don't believe them, and like nobody really does. She doesn't get her own panel at this medical convention and whatnot because nobody really believes that these people exist. They all believe they're faking and that they should be in insane asylums. So I do think she takes that extra step. In this instance, it doesn't work out for her. But I do think she takes that extra step into not call the authorities and to see if she can handle it herself.
Her situation brings up a really interesting consideration of when does selflessness become selfishness? And I think that's something that I think about a lot of the time in my day-to-day life. Even we do good things for other people and we do things to help other people, and yes, that's a good thing, but at the same time you do these good things for other people to feel good, which is ultimately kind of a selfish thing. And I think that is a lot of what she's struggling with, because we see her dealing with other people in the medical field and the psychiatric field who don't believe her. So I think there's definitely this element of she needs to prove to herself that she's right so that she can have credibility within her community. And so she's willing to break, these rules in order to, it's self-serving. And then she realizes that it backfires on her.
That actually brings me perfectly to my next question, and that is, do we think that it is selfish of Dr. Fletcher to have, I guess we can conceive, she hasn't mentioned Kevin Wendell Crumb's real name for at least 3 years. So this actual physical being, his true self, separate from these other personalities, as he says at the end, it's not 2014, blah, blah, blah. That's 3 years ago that his actual physical identity, his government persona, has been missing for 3 years. Is it selfish of her to not bring him back into the light?
Well, I think it's also dangerous because he does, say... you saw what happened. She does say it's very dangerous to do that because then every one of his personalities, whether or not it's his real government person, all these other entities are still a part of him as well. And if they all start clashing at the same time, that could have a very big physical repercussion on him as well. If his mind just breaks to a point or if he starts to hurt himself.
Well, that's what I was wondering. So the first time that Casey says his full name, he comes back. The second time, he doesn't come back. He's absorbed by Patricia. So do you think that that's what happened? Why didn't it work the second time?
I think it was because of the emergence of the beast and because he did reach that point of evolution where the beast kind of took over the real form.
It was too late.
Perhaps.
Perchance.
All right, perfect. So since we're kind of landing on the beast again, I have a final question. We're going to bring it all the way around town. So we are in a world of superheroes. We've now seen a second origin story of potentially David Dunn's now arch nemesis. How do we feel about the potential of another movie spinning off of this? And do we like that this ultimately turned into a superhero movie?
I loved it. I loved Unbreakable. That was my favorite M. Night Shyamalan film, and people have been asking for this movie for over a decade now. It is interesting that he does make it another origin story. And what I was saying before in that podcast, he does feel that sequels don't really do justice unless it's a separate movie in itself. So I did like the way he kind of made it that way, and in the end you get that little cameo, which if you don't have after the last credit of Split, you can totally cut that off, and that's a separate film. If you don't bring Bruce Willis into it, that's a whole separate film in itself.
Yeah, I love the potential trilogy because Split to me was a horror film, a suspense horror film. I was getting from watching the trailer, I was thinking this is going to be Hostel. This is going to be something totally different than Unbreakable, whereas Unbreakable was a modern day superhero film. And I love the fact that the two are going to come together and become this kind of dark superhero kind of.
Definitely more modern.
Exactly.
I agree to a certain extent, but that is part of what bothered me about this movie so much. That ending was what you just said. It was like, well, if you took that out, it's a completely different movie. That's part of what bothered me about it, because it's like this. Because we as an audience really love connecting dots. So when you place the dots there, but we're not allowed to connect them until literally the last line of the movie. That's a post-credit scene. It's kind of irritating. Like, Marvel's gotten away with it, but it's because it's from something in a different universe, but it's something far away that doesn't have anything to do with the particular movie we're watching. This whole thing kind of felt like, and it kind of it reminded me of some of the movies that he made that weren't so good, because it was kind of like M. Night Shyamalan was M. Night Shyamalan, whatever.
There it is.
Whatever. It's like, it kind of reminded me of, like, I had this image, like, he's the magician who, like, pulls out the cards, and he's like, pick a card. And we pick a card, and then he's like, I'm going to throw it against the wall, and the one that stays is your card. And then he throws it, and none of the cards stick, and you're like, wait, where's my card? And then he pulls a dove out of his wrist, and he's like, look, a dove. And you're like, wait, that has nothing to do with my card.
Sorry, David.
Well, I was going to say, as somebody who didn't see Unbreakable before seeing this movie, I was completely confused by that line. And I recognized Bruce Willis from the other M. Night Shyamalan movie, Sixth Sense. And so I thought, well, this is an interesting mashup we have going here.
I mean, the one difference between a movie like this and a movie like the Marvels is that Marvel has a history of comic books already, where this Shyamalan movie, it's an origin story. So you do need all the backstory to it. And I like that. I mean, I'm super interested to see what's going to happen in an eventual third movie, which he's talked about. No, I know. So
Unsplittable.
Unsplittable. but he does say he also wants to make it like another standalone film. He wants to find a way where he can combine both of the movies, but make it so that you don't have to watch either of the other two to see it. But the thing, I do like that he does include Unbreakable, because that forces you to go see his other movie, and that's good for business.
And a great movie.
He's making you go see his other movie. He really is.
The problem is I enjoyed Unbreakable far more than I did Split.
Same.
Oh, I love Unbreakable, yeah.
Really?
I liked Split, but
Unbreakable has that raw aspect to it.
I would actually argue I enjoyed Split more than Unbreakable.
Okay.
Split does not have Samuel L. Jackson in the movie.
Oh, Mr. Glass.
hold on to your butts. That's the wrong movie.
Hold on to your butts.
No, just as a like kind of superhero trilogy movie kind of thing in a world where we're surrounded by extremely mediocre superhero movies, if you ask for my opinion. Yeah, it's definitely a refresher from all of that. I just kind of found it to be frustrating because there's this sort of, I mean, the thing is too, he's built his whole career on like, what a twist. There's a twist in the end and all that stuff. And if the twist is, I think what's been happening with a lot of his more recent movies is that the twist is more of a thud, and it just kind of like it is, when you build your career on that, you're gonna have to kind of deliver that. Not to put it in a box, but like.
So say this movie wasn't done by M. Night Shyamalan, how would you have felt about it? And like you took off the Bruce Willis ending. Because I think it was a great movie. Besides that, I think everybody went into this thinking something totally different, and that's the whole reason why I said I'm going to go in, like we talked about on the last podcast, what do you think the twist was? And I was like, I'm going to go into it with an open mind. Because like, if you do set yourself up for like, this is going to be like, so crazy, like her uncle's gonna come back from the dead and be the Beast, like then like you're gonna be disappointed no matter what.
Brilliant.
It's gonna be
that's what I
like
thought.
you're gonna be disappointed no matter what. Like so why don't you just see it for what it was supposed to be and not like try to think it was something else?
Because he did that to himself.
When?
I mean, that's his career. That's what he's written. Those
Not
are his
for
legacy movies,
Last Airbender.
which I didn't waste my time with.
Anyway.
Okay, so I'm actually going to head back because I really do want to touch on the girls, especially now we've got more ladies up in here. What up? How my ladies at?
I'm here now.
Yes.
You said touch up on the girls, and I was like, that was his job.
Ouch, ouch. Okay, because here's the thing, especially in horror movies or even psychological thrillers, unfortunately, women are categorized in such a specific way, or they're usually portrayed in not exactly the best light. How did we feel about these girls? And no, we'll start there because everyone is giving me faces. So Jackie, we'll start with you.
Oh, I mean, just on a very, very surface level, I really enjoyed what he did with the characters, with the women. It eventually got to a point. There was a part of me that eventually was like, oh, and now they're stripping, and that has to be a part of the plot. Why the hell does that have to be a part of the plot? But in terms of how the actual characters themselves were portrayed, I liked it a lot, especially considering they were high school age girls, which are typically, you have like these popular girls, so it's usually like popular equals stupid. Not in this movie. And I really like that. It was a really small thing, but it was like, you can be popular and you can have friends and you can also be smart and you can also be resourceful. And I appreciated that.
Me too as well. I honestly was very surprised when the girl's initial reaction was, let's fight this guy. Let's all join up and fight this guy, because you don't often see that side represented. Everybody did have very watery eyes the entire time, but I think that's pretty natural.
It's fucking scary shit, man.
He's giving his best Kendall Jenner impression.
Andy, I would also like to point out, freaks out at a smoke alarm. So.
Oh my God! Like.
But I love you.
Well, just to finish my thought, though, the one thing that did disappoint me, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is I wish that the two girls were just kind of condensed down into one character. I didn't quite understand why there was two of them. That didn't become apparent to me.
It would have been nice to see that Regina George, Katie, Lindsay Lohan characters kind of dynamic, where she's like the one girl who's been like, well, she actually wasn't mean to her because she did invite her to her birthday party, but
nice.
somebody who was a lot different than her, and then somebody who is a bit more introverted and rebellious, kind of band together to go up against this character. But I did like that M. Night Shyamalan never made it to the point where you didn't feel like these girls were, you knew they were in danger because of the beast, but after the first moment when Miss Patricia came in and said he's not going to hurt you anymore, you knew that they weren't going to really be like physically harmed. And I was also, sorry to ramble on,
They are sacred food.
yeah, I was well, they were eaten. They were eaten.
So they weren't harmed, but
Yeah,
they were eaten.
They were eaten. I was watching it and I was like, is this like these 16-year-old girl were like taking their clothes off, and I was like, is this like, should I be watching, like, is this appropriate? What is this? What's going on? Like, why are they? She took off her pants. Yeah, she took off her pants, and you see her in her underwear for the good of like 15 minutes of the movie. I don't know. I felt a little weird about that.
I do understand that, and I mean that is tough. But it does come back around to, I guess the whole point would be of that, besides it just showing sexuality, would be to harp on the point to why Casey wears so many clothes to hide the scars, which has a big point of like, you know, the whole scarring thing in the end. So I guess that would be the big point about that.
While I understand the significance of it coming down to her taking off her shirt to show physical scars, I really kind of wanted it to be, for her pain to be exhibited in a way that wasn't exterior. And I don't know how that would have been executed, but I think that that's one of the things that bothered me, is that it did come down to...
But then it wouldn't show her, because if you do show her kind of pain in a physical manifest kind of form, I feel like it would deteriorate from her character. She stays strong throughout the entire film. And then the one time where he takes pity on her is when he sees what has happened to her in the past.
I mean, I think I'm torn, because there's a part of me that's like, why are they taking off their clothes? Why is this another thing in a horror movie? On the other hand, it is an integral part to this storyline that she was sexually abused. Yeah. So that is something that, that is the through line for her. That is why she's able to deal with things the way she deals with them.
It at least does it with a purpose.
I think that was poorly. It could have been the scene where you see the uncle in the woods asking her to play animals and like take her clothes off. I think that could have come right after he saw all the scars, and then you see the flashback of the uncle and stuff like that, as opposed to leading up forward, because that moment meant nothing to me, because I was like, oh yeah, obviously her uncle raped her. I wasn't like, because if they had done it at that point, I would have been like, oh wait, oh shit, the uncle raped her. And so it was, from an editing standpoint, it could have been better.
What a twist.
Annie, I'm going to argue the fact with you about why they showed the
Sure.
I think it's stronger to when they show at the end when it is the Beast and they show that her father died and now she lives with her uncle. So now you get the story of this happens all the time. This isn't just like one thing. She lives with this pain now. Like, so this happens to her
And there
all
are many
the time.
scars
And this
as
is why
opposed to a
she
couple.
and this is why she runs away from home all the time and yada yada.
I think just visually and artistically, I kind of wanted those moments to meld together. I understand what you're saying completely. But I
Yeah.
also understand what you're saying. Like one of the, I think, most beautifully like fluid moments is when the Beast is approaching and you're getting like all of their different perspectives, like in the bunker, the Beast running through. And I kind of wish that there was a moment when that happened because I didn't feel like there was a payoff when she had the gun and shot the Beast. Because that brings back the uncle moment from earlier too. I just feel like those weren't as artistically connected as I want them to be, whereas in other points it was more fluid, if that makes sense.
No, but I mean, just going back to your original question, Claire, like, I think overall, I honestly was impressed with how they dealt with the reality of three teenage girls in this situation, like just normal, intelligent people who are scared shitless. What do you do? You know, I think it was a pretty accurate portrayal of somebody. You know, it wasn't. I don't think it was overdone in any way, but it was displaying like the stronger side of how could you react to that, which I appreciate because usually you get the opposite.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. I was happy that they didn't go farther because I was like, it's so easy to once they start taking off their clothes, you can get like the close-ups on like the butt walking like through the hallway or like, you know, you can show a lot of skin that way. Especially when she's standing on the bed and like hitting her heel into the roof and like the upskirt kind of thing. I was like, you could have gone like you could have gone a lot further. I was actually happy that they kind of toned it
Could have gotten
back.
a lot more butt cheek in there.
Well, I will say, though, there was one particular shot where you're just looking right down Casey's shirt. And I was like, really?
Oh, when she's laying.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Is that when she's
And I
like
was
sleeping
like,
and Hedwig
come
comes
on.
in? Well, I also do like that the Hedwig character, even though he does Casey Affleck her, and like in that one scene, but it is so innocent because he comes back with a terrible, awful, like I'm a great kisser kind of thing because it's sweet in a way. You kind of feel bad for him.
I was going to say, there was actually a very large part of this movie where I just wanted to cry for James McAvoy's character because that moment is so sweet. And I really like it's like you look at it from the outside and you see them as people and are like, oh, this is creepy as fuck. But if you think about it from like that poor 9-year-old boy's point of view, it's like, oh my God, this kid's trying to connect. And I think the thing that was what I really enjoyed, which you kind of touched on, Andy, is that there were certain characters that when they came on screen, not only did the girls feel safe, but you felt safe. And I really kind
And
of...
that was Hedwig.
That was Hedwig. Yeah, and well, a little bit of Dennis when Patricia put him in line and said, Barry is completely safe. You know, there were certain characters. I think that made it really kind of a roller coaster to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I haven't seen Kendall Jenner in. Like, she's done a couple 17 magazines where she's like in a bikini, and so I think that for her, from an acting standpoint, it wasn't anything off the ordinary. But I think
Oh,
that,
you don't watch her Snapchat.
No, oh, really?
Andy's gonna look immediately.
All right.
He looked like a great kisser, though.
Yeah.
I'll give that to Hedwig. Great kisser.
So I'm
That's how you do kiss, right? Just open mouth?
Just like
Birding
semi lip, side
Yeah,
lips.
it was a
It's like
weird kiss.
it was like side lips to cheek, and then just like
Hover lips.
eh.
About it. He's 9.
Jackie, let's demonstrate.
Yeah.
But wait, but wait, when was your first kiss?
What? We're not discussing this
I'll talk
right
my
now.
first kiss.
Yes.
I was in
Let's
do it.
5th grade,
Yeah, it was not 5th grade for me. It was much later than that.
and I was much better than Hedwig.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to wrap this up. So, final thoughts and wrap up of this movie. Should you see it or not?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I go with it.
Yeah, see Unbreakable and then see this.
Yeah.
That's actually a great recommendation.
Caveat, see it, but like, just get rid of your expectations.
Yeah,
just go
don't-
see it like you're gonna go see a movie.
Thank you so much.
But also, if you haven't seen it and you've been listening to this podcast, sorry.
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 Then maybe don't go see it anymore.
Which brings us to quiz time. Andy, take it away.
All right, guys. Today's quiz will be on the fourth longest running Broadway musical, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats.
Okay, please explain how
explain
any
this.
of this is connected.
Because Dr. Fletcher, played by Betty Buckley,
So obscure.
starred in the original Broadway production of Cats. The game is called One and Done. I will ask each of you one question with multiple answers. Elliot, you can just sit back and enjoy this one because you picked the movie this week. And if you get it wrong, you're out and we move on to the next player. In the result of a tie, there will be a sudden death question, and if no one wins, I get to pick next week's movie. Sound good?
Great.
Fair.
All right, Danny, you're up first. What book is this musical based off of?
Fuck, don't ask me about books.
What Do Cats Dream? Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats?
Fuck is that one?
The Secret Lives of Cats and Other Stories? Cats and Their Ways.
You know, it sounds fucking obscure as shit, but I'm gonna go with B, that one about a possum.
Correct. Fuck yeah! Yep. The musical Cats is based off of a book of poems by T.S. Eliot called Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. Jackie, you're up. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
The Jellicle Ball is to announce when a cat is to be reborn. When does this happen? Just before dawn? At dusk? When the moon is at its zenith? At the stroke of midnight?
Stop! I hate this quiz. Zenith.
Incorrect! Just before dawn. What the fuck? All right, Dan. Are you ready? Who is the theater cat whose paws now suffer from palsy?
Palsy or palsy?
Palsy.
Get it?
Yes.
You ready? Old Deuteronomy. Monkey strap. Beans. Asparagus.
I don't fucking know. A, sure.
Incorrect.
Of course.
Elliot, do you want to answer a question just for fun?
Yeah, can I have a fun question?
Wait, what was the answer?
The answer is asparagus.
Seriously, a cat and cats?
That's
Yeah.
a cat?
Gus, they call him Gus the theater cat.
Ooh, Gus.
But his name is Asparagus.
I've never
Where
seen
did
it.
you get this information?
The internet.
Oh, wait, I want a question just for fun.
I'm going to answer your question just for fun.
Andy's favorite.
Who is the cat about town, remarkably fat, and known as
Oh, I know this one.
the St. James Street Cat? Jenny Annie Dots? Beans? Bustopher Jones? Or the Rum Tum Tugger?
Bustopher Jones.
Correct. But it doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. I knew that one. As the one.
All right,
cat I
Claire.
knew.
Claire, you're up.
Oh God, you're gonna give me a hard one.
Who is the Jellicle leader? Macavity? Monkey Strap? Old Deuteronomy? Or Beans?
Well, I would love to say beans. I think it's Old Deuteronomy.
Correct.
For can we just say that Beans is a very beloved cross-eyed Siamese cat that
Half Siamese.
half Siamese cat that Jackie's sister owns.
What's the other half?
Meow, demon.
Likely.
All right. Now we now have a sudden death question between Claire and Danny. First person to answer, just shout it out, wins. If none of you answer correctly, then I get to pick the movie next week. Who is the Jellicle choice? The one that will be reborn as a new Jellicle cat.
Grisabella?
Correct! Grisabella, who was played by Betty Buckley in the original production of Cats. Bring that around, and that is the game! All right, Claire, it's your choice.
I'm just so happy that my musical theater card will not be revoked tonight. Thank God. Represent. You guys are gonna hate me.
Please don't be A Dog's Purpose.
It's A Dog's
No!
Purpose.
No!
You guys, because it couldn't be more appropriate that our quiz today was about cats, and now we're gonna watch a movie about dogs.
It all
See, I
began
just want
with
to put
Ethan.
Bailey, 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 Bailey.
My name was Bailey,
Bailey is like
Bailey,
the
Bailey.
perfect dog.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Go, Bailey.
We spent every day together.
Perfect dog.
But as the years went by, I could tell my time with you.
And now the dog's gonna die.
God,
Come on.
There's dog death in this.
And then it happened.
God, this is.
I was back.
You just looked at
I
it.
didn't have a girl. Good girl. Good girl.
Constant dog
I was
death.
needed again. And again.
Oh, Corgi.
And again. With each
God,
life,
I'm gonna
I
hate
was
this
learning
movie
a
so
new
much.
Have we met before? Where did you find that?
No. God,
Humans are complicated.
I do love it, Dennis.
They do things dogs can't understand. But no matter what,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Dog's Purpose.
Okay, Dog's Purpose is going to be good for what it is, but I don't think it's going to be anything that
I
has
think-
some meat to it.
I think it's going to be perfect for us to talk about on this podcast.
Hate it.
I thought it was a joke when I first saw a trailer for it.
That's what I thought too.
Like I thought it was an ABC family movie. Like
Maybe it is.
I have nothing to say.
Other
I'm
than
I'm glad I'm moderating.
bow wow.
Who let the dogs out?
Who?
I want that to be everyone, but that,
Yeah, we're gonna have a rough time.
Shut up.
God damn it, Andy.
pause on this.
Get out of here. Put the puns away.
Jackie, I will
bitching
smack
about
you so
it.
hard.
Whoa. Dan's bark is bigger than his bite.
Oh, my sweet, gentle Jesus.
I hate all of you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Buzzkill Films podcast. Tune in next time to when we review A Dog's Purpose.
Woof.